So, listeners, welcome back to the next episode of the podcast. I'm delighted to have Renee Puvvada here today. I had to double check how to say her name at the start just in case I said it wrong, as I frequently do. And you can correct me, Renee, if I said it wrong at this point already. But it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you, David, so much for having me today. I was practicing all yesterday. I'm super excited to be here.
Cool, awesome. It's good to have you here. And yes, Renee, I have you on basically because, as I just mentioned, I'm so interested in your process in terms of book publishing and book promotion, and I'm really interested to hear about that. And I think our listeners will find it really informative as well. Just as we start, Renee, can you tell me a little bit about your background? So, where are you from? How have you got to the point you're at now? Just that sort of stuff. Go for it.
Sure. So I'm Renee and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And how did I get here is a really interesting question. I'm glad you asked that. So I started this book marketing journey by accident because it started in when I was 24 years old and my dad gave me a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I just graduated college. I was going into grad school at the time. I was really excited to go into grad school. And then he gave me the book and I tore through it in like 2 days. And I was like, this mind blowing moment about, oh my gosh, this is kind of what I've been searching for a really long time was a way to achieve freedom. Because I mean, not that long ago during my first internship, I remember talking to my manager and she was saying, yeah, well, we have to work here for 40 more years, so you might as well enjoy it. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not working here for, of course I didn't say it to her. I said it in my head, but I was like, no way. I'm getting out of here. There's no way I'm going to spend my life in corporate America. I just didn't know how. And so when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was like, okay, this is finally starting to make sense. And since I was 16, I had always wanted to be a digital nomad because, that was kind of when it was starting to pick up some steam about like these stories on NPR about these millionaire bloggers living on the beach in Thailand. I was like, I want that so bad, but I just don't know why, right? Like, you're just like, I want it, but I don't even know how to get there. I don't know what they're even talking about. And I mean, my parents are Asian, so it was like college or nothing. Like that's the only way. So when it was time to like graduate and like find a job, I was like, okay, I'm going to work this job, but I'm going to. So like the first day of my job, I started Googling how to make money online. um, and so after about like 30 days of searching, I found this course on how to make quote unquote passive income. And I was too green at the time to know that there's really no such thing as 100% passive income. But I was like really excited by this. And it was a book on how to publish audiobooks. And it was about, okay, so you can outsource the management. You find a topic on Amazon that people are searching for, and you outsource the writing, you outsource the narration, and people on Amazon will find it and they'll buy it, and you get paid the big bucks, baby. Like, okay, amazing.
You're in.
I'm in. It'll take me 6 months to make $10,000 a month. Let's freaking go. Thailand, here I come. And that did not exactly happen the way I thought it would, because I like made that first audiobook and it did $600 the first month, but then after that it was like $200 and then $150, then $200. So I was like, okay, so if I want to make $10,000 a month, I was like doing some back calculations and it was like, oh my gosh, I have to publish 500 books. This is crazy. And there was like, I just wasn't going to make it fast enough, right? There was a lot of learning in that time. So I published like 4 audiobooks during that time. And they were all in different topics. They were all in like, one was like networking for introverts. One was budgeting for couples. One was how to get into college for free. Because these were all things I had experienced. And I was, okay. But I had to start over from scratch every time. And by starting from scratch, I mean, I had to get reviews for all of these books. And I had to find a new audience to get reviews from and to get a buying base, like a customer base.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about this at the time. And of course, the course that I bought didn't explain this. I think the person who made the course was just like, oh, he achieved easy early success and threw a course together. And this was all back when scams on the internet were a big thing. And I was definitely one of them, one of the victims. That was a good time because I learned that quality really matters. Because like I would publish some audiobooks thinking I could just slap something up onto Audible. But there's this like feedback loop that happens when you're lazy and then people read it or listen to it and it's not very good and they leave you a bad review. And then it makes it harder and harder over time to gain traction and to sell more books. And then over time, it ends up in what's called like the Amazon graveyard, where your book just doesn't do anything anymore. It's not selling, it's not helping anybody. And so I learned that quality matters a lot. And I learned that number of reviews matter a lot. So when I would get like 15 or 20 reviews on a book, because I would convince like 15 or 20 of my friends to leave a review, but then someone else would just copy me and then leave 30 reviews. And it was like struggling up the hill again. So you need to create like a moat around your book to say, this is my book and no one copy me. So you need a lot of reviews. And you also, it's like, there's also these like services out there that can help you get reviews for your book. Because getting reviews for your book for a lot of people seems like a big chore, where they like, okay, they'll go to Pubbie or to, I think it's called Book Siren or something. You have to pay like $20 a month. And you only get like 4 reviews in a month. And so it just feels so hard. It feels like you're moving through mud. But I was like, okay, so if reviews matter, I need a lot of reviews. Then at the time, I felt like I need whatever it takes, I need to get a lot of reviews. And also, you also learn that you need a really good cover, a cover that's like, that isn't just something that you like, but it's something that your audience responds to. So I would create an audiobook and then ship it out to Reddit and start promoting it. And people will be like, what the heck is this? They didn't like it. They thought it was a bad book because 1, the cover was not as good as I thought it could be. And then 2, it wasn't speaking emotionally to them. So here's like this big realization that I learned in business, which I think a lot of people learn, but I didn't know at the time, was that I was in business for myself. I wanted the money to travel. I wanted to do it because I wanted it for myself. Whereas I should have gone through the process of creating a product to help someone else with their own issues, right?
Yeah.
And when you're doing it for yourself, and I still speak to a lot of entrepreneurs now who are creating their own books, and they're like really, they love to write the book for themselves. And then they have an audience that doesn't respond to it. And they're like, what happened? Well, it's because you need to give your audience the thing that they are looking for in terms of your cover, your subtitle, your title, things like that. So there was a lot of learning. And by far, the biggest learning was having a proper book launch. I would just throw up a book onto Amazon and then do the promotion afterwards. And it just felt so hard. And I would start researching, like, why is this so hard? You see like these other books out there that are doing really well. And you're like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And so it had a lot to do with building an audience, building momentum before the book was live, and gaining that early readership so that you could create buzz and create what I didn't know what it was called at the time, but it's marketing momentum. You fire up people, you get them really excited, and then you can ask them to leave a review, purchase your book, all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about this. So with that awareness, I was like, okay, I need a new course. I'm going to buy a course now that's going to teach me how to do these things. So I bought a new course, and it's called Audiobook Impact Academy. It was at the time it's called Audiobook Income Academy. And I thought it was a very good course. I had a really good experience from that because I talk about learning how to be an entrepreneur for someone else rather than for yourself. And that course actually determined, I was like, oh, I understand now. It's not about me when I'm creating a product, because your book is a product. You also learn that your book is a product that solves a particular problem for a particular market that has this particular problem. And you learn that they're looking for something that fits their need. And you have to find out what that emotional need is. And ChatGPT is not going to give it to you. The ChatGPT doesn't know. Otherwise, everyone's solution would be no one would have any problems anymore, right? So AIA taught me how to actually go deep into market research. And I DM'd like hundreds of people on Facebook at this time. And people are like, why would I ever DM hundreds of people? I have to sometimes convince my own clients nowadays to do that. And it's like, well, ChatGPT is going to give you 80% of the solution, but you need to know the one that maybe it's not one, maybe it's several things that are really keeping people stuck in their problems. So the example that I found out was, so when I was in AIA, they told you, okay, so you need to find a blue ocean niche on Amazon that's high demand, low competition. And so I did that. At the time, I was interested in saving money and saving energy costs and housing costs and energy costs and things like that. And so I was like, okay, I want to find a book on that or a topic on that. But because there
Mhm.
weren't profitable topics in that, there was an adjacent one that was working called rainwater harvesting.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, so rainwater harvesting. I found out that, or I thought it was about sustainability, but when I start DMing people and really going deep into market research, I found out that the people who wanted to buy a book on rainwater harvesting wanted to do so because they had water scarcity issues on their property.
Mm.
And so they had a very urgent need for water, for clean water fast. That never ChatGPT never could have got me that. All ChatGPT was giving me was like, oh, people just they want to be green and live eco-friendly.
Mm.
But eco-friendly doesn't emotionally move people to spend their money.
Where were those people based? Was this like in the US or is this all over the world or?
Yeah, so that was
Mm.
also part of the market research too, because
Mm.
from what I had learned or what I had thought it was the US. But
Mm.
as I started going to Facebook groups and commenting, learning, interacting with the people there, I learned that there's a lot of people in India who are also dealing with rainwater or water scarcity and were using rainwater harvest to maximize their water. And Australia is huge, New
Mm.
Zealand is huge. Never knew this. Taiwan is huge. You never would have known. And so
Yeah.
there also is, once you know this, you also then need to pare back who you're talking to. So for example, some of these products in the book that are recommended, I couldn't talk to someone in Taiwan because they couldn't buy these things. I had to say or decide this book is for people in North America,
Mm.
pretty much exclusively. And it was great because in Australia, there are a lot of people who have access and they talk a lot about rainwater harvesting, but in North America, it wasn't so big of a deal.
Mm.
But yeah, so in this process, I would like, okay, so I would wake up at 5 a.m. every single day because I was still working corporate at the time. And I would wake up at 5 a.m. and work on my book until 8 a.m. and then work at my corporate job from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. and then exercise and sleep. But in total, I would spend like 16 hours a day in my bedroom because I was just working, working, working.
Mm.
And, like all these gurus out there, they're saying, just, set the goal, don't make any excuses, be disciplined with your life, and you will get the life of your dreams. And I was like, okay, I totally bought into that. And it had worked so far. Everything I'd ever done through college, through all the success I'd had in my own life, that was the formula.
Mhm.
But apparently, when you have things like anxiety and things related to, yeah, like the emotional weight of money that is very intertwined with entrepreneurship is our relationship with finances and money and our what we know and what we believe about money. I had no idea at the time. I was just like, oh, okay. And so I would just like work, 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 and be massively depressed and not understand why the heck I was massively depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And that's so important to talk about as well because so many
mhm.
entrepreneurs, like you see the guys on the beach and they drive around in sports cars and having the time of their lives.
Yes.
And they don't talk about the dark stuff that goes alongside it. They don't talk about all the
Yes.
difficulties and the stuff that
Yes.
solopreneurs and entrepreneurs go through in the background to get to those points. So yeah,
My gosh.
yeah.
Yes, huge. And
Mm.
exactly, like who is talking about these things? Or I mean, that is marketing as you want to speak in terms of the outcome. But the reality is that all of us have these ebbs and flows in
Hmm.
our emotional journey through entrepreneurship. It's never going to go away.
Yeah.
And even if you break through one ceiling, there's going to be another emotional level that you have to work through.
Hmm.
The mental health journey, or the conversation with mental health with entrepreneurship, I think it started, I think luckily it started, but not that long ago. It wasn't that popular. It was just
Mm.
like, oh, online entrepreneurship, Lamborghinis and Thailand beaches, right? So luckily we're talking about it now.
Mm.
And yeah, that was when I started entering the world of like manifestation and like woo stuff because I was like, there were definitely thoughts of like, oh my gosh, is this the end? Is this how it goes, how it ends?
Hmm.
Because I felt like I had met my match, my match in terms of what I was up against in terms of my own mind, right?
Yeah. Mm.
So I joined this coaching program, this manifestation coaching program, and she told me, hey, stop worrying about the 10K a month to feel liberated and free and independent.
Mm.
Do the things that you want to with what you have right now.
Mm.
And I wanted to travel, and I never thought, oh, I have a car, I work remotely, And I mean, it was February, but I live in a state in Georgia, which there's a lot of climates in Georgia. I live in a rather cold area, but there is a city called Savannah that's really warm. And so I
Mm.
was like, I could just go there. I never thought of it that way. And so when I went there, I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. It's not about the money. It's about what we attach to the money is what we think that the money will give us. And it was all about how we feel, how I felt when I was like on that dock in Savannah and the wind was blowing through my hair. And it was the seagulls were like lapping over the sun on the water. I was like, this was what I wanted this whole
Mm.
time. I couldn't express that.
Yeah.
So that emotional journey was like, okay, I get it. I feel much better. I didn't feel like I was moving through mud anymore. And then I clicked publish on Amazon. I had put together all the learnings I had learned from audiobooks, from paperbacks, from finding profitable niches on Amazon, with market research, with testing, the cover, the title, everything. I thought that, but by the way, this took me a long time to do. I built it like stage by stage by stage. And when I hit publish on Amazon, it was like, boom, immediately. These almost $10,000 checks per month were landing in my bank account. And I was like, oh
Wow.
my gosh, it's working. It's working.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought it was incredible until I learned. So yeah, here's the thing is that people are like, you want to make $10,000 in a month? Well, they're not telling you is that what the money it takes to make the $10,000
Uh,
or the 50K a month or whatever it is. And
mm.
so the ads that I had to spend to bring in those checks, it
Mm.
was like, I mean, it was like $5,000 in a month just to bring in $10,000 a month. So, right. So it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
Mhm.
Big lesson there too. But as I was like, I was sending out, or like the launch was happening on Amazon because I learned about the Amazon algorithm. I was finally gaming it. I finally mastered it. It was working, is working.
Mm.
And people started coming to me and saying, oh my gosh, are you a thought leader and rainwater harvester? And I was like, I was like ignoring, I was like, that Homer Simpson gif where he's like retreating into the
Into the
hedges.
bushes, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, no. But they kept on coming. So I was like, I guess like I was attracting. Instead of like chasing opportunities for once, I was attracting opportunities. And so I was like, did I unlock this like next level in the game? Which it kind of is. It's like unlocking the next level in the game. If you publish a book, apparently people see you as the expert in what you have published in. And it's just like this weird society thing that we have that, and there's this quote from Dave Chilton. Dave Chilton is a book marketer from Canada. He sold 2 million copies of a self-published book in Canada. He's now on Dragon's Den, which is the Canadian equivalent of Shark Tank, because of that success with self-published books. And he's saying there's this phenomenon that happens with authors in our society that what's an author, any other profession besides like a plumber or a teacher, but people just respect authors so much. So why not use it to your advantage? It's like, oh, I see how this is working. So I was experimenting. What would it look like to accept these podcast invitations, accept the consulting invitations, accept the speaking invitations, the trips to Hawaii, like people were just, and I was like, oh my gosh, there is this stream of goodness, this fortune that comes from publishing a seminal book in your topic. And so I was like, okay, clearly this is like, I want to expand this, see how far I can take this. And so I started researching how other self-published authors like Robert Kiyosaki, like MJ DeMarco, Mike Michalowicz, how these authors did so well, Dave Chilton, how these authors did so well for themselves.
Yep.
How could they sell millions of copies of self-published books? And I want to do that too. Let's experiment. And it had a lot to do with how you're showing up as the face of your brand. If you have a business, for example, David, like you are How to Write for a Living, if you published a whole book on how to write for a living and you showed up every single day on your podcast and your newsletter, that is how you would sell books. You just link a copy of your book on Amazon or wherever, on Amazon or wherever, and people would associate you as the expert in how to write for a living, buy your book, and be sucked into what I now realize what was a book funnel. There was so much authority with a book, maybe more so than like a podcast or even like a blog. Like of this book was like this star that was like just attracting all this opportunity. And I was like, at one point, I was like, I can't be the thought leader in rainwater harvesting anymore. Like I was interested in this at a point, but if you really want to write a book and have a business, you have to be passionate about it. And I wasn't passionate about it. I was more passionate about the people, but the topic itself, I was interested. But there was a way I now realize from all my learnings with book launches, with audiobooks, with paperbacks, with learning how to do podcast guesting, with how these really big name self-published authors got their traction. I realized, oh my gosh, I get it now. It's not about the book, it's about the book funnel. And so now I help other people publish their own books and turn readers into high ticket clients. And it's super exciting because it's just like repeating and replicating what I experienced.
Amazing. It's incredible, Renee. You mentioned some of the things already that we were sort of going to talk about today, which is great. And that was really nice and organic. This is a question that you might have already mentioned this already in your answer, but how many copies of your self-published book did you sell in your first year?
Yeah. So with leveraging Amazon and then leveraging the promotional collaborations that were showing up in my inbox, it was 10,283. And to be honest, it was more than that because I didn't count Ingram sales or drafted digital sales. So yeah, like this is completely possible.
1,000 books plus in your first year? That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's honestly amazing. And
Thank
I know
you.
there'll be so many people listening to this podcast or watching this video later who are just going to be blown away by that number right at the start, because that is a big achievement for anybody who is self-publishing. So, I mean, I published a book, which is there, and I have another self-published book coming out in November, so next month. And I'm learning about this process as well. So this is very early on for me. It's really cool to talk to somebody who's already hit that height that I'd love to be able to get to someday. So kudos to you for a start. First of all, that's absolutely amazing.
Thank
And
you.
you said so much there in in that first section, and I'm trying to kind of unpack it in my head.
For sure.
I was also kind of laughing at the cat that was trying to get under your screen as well, and you're kind of trying to push it away. And the fact that I've got dogs, and they're always trying to get into these things as well. In terms of you mentioned about the actual money you take away, the money you get to keep in terms of what you versus what you spend. This is kind of a random question, but what would you say someone would have to spend realistically on an ad in order to sell one book? So like per book, what is it kind of the roughly the amount you have to spend in order to sell a book?
That's a good question. So it really depends on a lot of things. And I want to provide an answer that seems useful. So you can realistically expect to get, like, with an Amazon ad, less than 10 clicks for each sale is what you're looking for, optimizing for. And generally, clicks, I mean, depends on how competitive your niche is. But if you're in a really competitive niche, probably like $1 per click is maybe what is expected, versus less competitive niches are maybe like 50 cents, 60 cents a click. And you can find ones that are like 20 cents, 10 cents a click. But the idea is that, yeah, it's like 50 cents to $1 per click. And so as you can see, if you have like a $20 to $25 book, it eats into your book sales pretty quickly, into your profit pretty quickly. Yeah. So it's very helpful if, I mean, people who are reading your stuff want to be close to you as the author anyway. They want to be learning from you. They want to, even if you're a fiction author, David, like they want to learn how you are writing your fiction. They want to learn how they can create characters and enter your world more. And there's so many different ways that you can then expand in terms of the value that you provide to your readers, and they want to buy it anyway. So instead of thinking of it just book sales, think as the book sales as that first bit to bring people into your world, then upsell them into something more valuable, something that they want anyway.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. I want to ask you, Renee, as well about in terms of Amazon listings. So you get someone to your Amazon page for your book. What is going to make the difference there in terms of whether they just click away after they look at it, or whether they're going to stay, spend some time, and then eventually purchase your book? What makes up an Amazon listing that's really, really good?
Yeah, really good question. So in AIA, we were taught that every bit of your Amazon listing can be optimized for a cold lead to land on your page, because this is what happening with ads. So an ad on Amazon, you're presented the book, and then, you know, a stranger who's never heard of you clicks the book, and you don't want them to click away. You want them to be so entranced in half a second by what they see on your Amazon listing that they're thinking, wait a minute, maybe this book is for me. And then by the time that they've read your Amazon listing, they're hitting add to cart, right? So there are 5 components at what I've distilled. There are about 5 components that you want to optimize for your Amazon listing. One is the book cover. And your book cover needs to be not only professional, it can't look like self-published, it needs to look professional, but it needs to speak to your ideal customer in like half a second. They're looking for a feeling, they're looking for an emotion. Is it wonder? Is it freedom? Are they looking for inspiration or motivation? Give it to them. Colors, fonts, things like that. All of those need to speak to your reader in half a second. And David, I think your book is doing really well. I think I'm immediately entranced by what is going on there, right? So your eye goes from the cover across the title. Your title it can't just be something boring. It can't just be 5 steps how to get a date or something. It needs to be something interesting and new, right? It needs to sound like it needs to sound kind of authoritative. Like, this is the game day theory for attracting your soulmate. Something that speaks so deeply to an outcome that someone is craving so deeply and so emotionally that they can't help but, read the subtitle. You're leveraging authority, curiosity, all your little copywriting tricks. And you want to also, if you're using Amazon, to use Amazon SEO keywords that can help you rank organically in the Amazon search engine.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as your eye goes down, you see, reviews. So reviews is a huge thing. I still see books from entrepreneurs that still only have 25 reviews. And immediately I'm clicking away. I'm just thinking, only 25. Whether or not this is true, my subconscious lizard brain is thinking there's only been 25 people who have read this. And I don't care about this. Like, even as I'm searching for, I bought this podcast microphone not that long ago. And there was a podcast microphone that had like 30 reviews and one that had 3,000 reviews. Which one am I, for no other reason other than the reviews, am I going to trust more in half that second? Yep. So if you are using a nonfiction book as a lead generator for your business, don't skimp on the reviews. Do not think that, only 25 reviews is going to cut it. I do believe that I have this theory that your Amazon listing is like your LinkedIn profile or your Instagram profile on the internet. It's like this mark of authority that you are using to demonstrate your knowledge and your capabilities, the impact that you've had on people. And reviews are one of those things that absolutely display that in half a second. Then as you go down, you see the book description. So the book description, I see book descriptions that are like 1 paragraph. Don't just use 1 paragraph. Use all 4,000 characters of the book description that you're allowed. Use things like formatting, use storytelling, use hooks, use leads, use bullet points, use curiosity. All their awesome copywriting tactics that you're taught, use them there so that they're emotionally persuaded over the course that they can trust you, they like you, they know you, and perhaps that they would take a chance on how your book could be their solution more than free Instagram or free YouTube. There's so many great free content out there. Why would they choose your book over all the free content out there? So you must demonstrate that through your book description. And then finally, supplemental content, which is like the graphics that you see on a lot of Amazon listings, blurbs, which are like editorial reviews, which are like from your famous friends. And Mike Michalowicz has a quote from his mom on his editorial. Like, just use that space. Don't let it go to waste. And all of those, by zhuzhing up your Amazon listing, you are showing that you are respecting your book and you respect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You're investing the time in it, and you know that it's worth something and it's worth spending the time doing that. It's kind of like a sales page, isn't it? And if you've got like a product, it's the sales page. And people sometimes put out sales pages, they're just so short and there's not much information. And there's some sales pages that are hugely long and they're very persuasive. And works in the same way, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to go back to talking about reviews, because this is obviously a huge issue for writers. You've mentioned before that you were able to get, or that you know a process to get 100 reviews in 10 days. How does that work?
Yes. Super excited to share this because I remember back in the puppy days, it was like pulling teeth to get 75 reviews, and it took like 4 months. And it was like every single day reading a book and then having leave a review. So I'm going to you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to send out, and this is what the pros do, like the big high level entrepreneurs, is that they have a big audience and they're sending out free copies, free PDFs. And some people send out paperbacks, but you just need to send out to your audience. And a lot of people complain, I don't have a big audience. What do I do? So what you can do is go to Facebook groups or subreddits with based on topics that you are already writing about. So how to write for a living. There's so many writing Facebook groups and subreddits about writing and how can you monetize your writing to make a living from it and living financially free and how you want to, lifestyle design, so many adjacent groups that you can leverage.
Yeah.
Go into there and give out your free PDF, make a post and say, hey, my book is going out in 45 to 30 days. And I would love to give you a copy and I would really appreciate a review when it comes time to it. And this is how professionals do it. I was flying to Palermo, Sicily in April, and I saw Cal Newport had a new book come out. And I looked on Amazon and he already had like 700 reviews. And when you have that many reviews, you're like, oh yeah, no problem, no brainer, I'm going to buy it. So it's totally possible. So send out all those copies. And then when it's time to click publish on your Amazon, you then go to the people that you send it out to and say, hey, I want you to leave a review. Please leave me a review. I would really appreciate it. You follow up with them like 5 to 6 times because people are busy and they need reminding, just like we all do in our busy lives. And this is the energy of a very intentional, strategic, organized, successful book launch, is that you are essentially spamming the message button, say, please leave me a review. And if they don't respond, come back in 2 days and say, hey, remember how we chatted and how you were really appreciative of this book? Leave me a review. So it's just like, you're just following up with people over time. And this is how you can do this. You have 30 days. Amazon is looking for how quickly can you get reviews on your book within 30 days and how many sales are you getting? And if you can maximize the number of reviews you're getting within those 30 days, then that's your ticket to Amazon helping you out.
Is this 30 days from the publishing date? Yeah. 30 days.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So 100 reviews is a wonderful number to aim for. And I've never had to ask for a single review after those 100 reviews. And I now have like 408 reviews on my book. Instead of going little by little and wondering why you're moving through mud, why not just create a flywheel effect? Front load the energy for your book launch beforehand, get all those copies, and then enjoy the marketing momentum for life that you can have from the work that you just did. I hate to say this, but yes, it is once. I've never had to ask for reviews ever again. And I have 408 reviews now.
On how many reviews did you ask for initially? So how many copies did you send out in order to get your initial set of reviews?
Yes, great question. So I sent out 800 copies to strangers. And this is kind of like that, I do believe is like that difference between the good and the great. That the good are going to, they're making excuses about, oh, I just want to send out 200 and, what can I get away with? But you might as well send out 800, see how many reviews you can get, and have the numbers work for you rather than against you.
Yeah, great point. And in terms of how long in advance of the publication date you send those copies out, how long would you say you need to wait? Like, how much time do you need to get people to read the book before the publication date?
Yeah, so I gave them 30 days. I gave them 30 days. I started the process maybe like 45 days out.
Yeah.
And I gave them 30 days and I followed up with them every 2 weeks. And as I was getting closer to the date, I followed up with them once a week. So keeping up the momentum with them was really important as well, to say, don't forget, this is what I would really appreciate.
Yeah. And in terms of your book, Renee, is it quite a short book, that one, or is it a bit longer? As in, would you have to give people more time if the book was longer, or what do you think?
That's a good question. So my book was longer, and there's a lot of people who aren't keen on reading the entire book, but there are people who do want to read the entire book before they leave a review. That's a subsection of the people that will be leaving a review. So maybe 30 days or 60 days from when you sent it out, then they'll leave that review. But there's a big chunk of people that just needed to see what this book was about. Could it really help them? Is this book actually going to solve like a problem that they have? And if so, they're like, okay, yeah, I would give this 5 stars if I read this entire thing in entirety. but there's plenty of people who can skim something in 2 weeks and feel like they can leave a decent review.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was sending, I've been using the same sort of process you're talking about with
Mm-hmm.
my book that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out. So I've been
Oh,
sending out
nice.
free PDF copies to people at the minute on things like
Yes.
TikTok and stuff.
Yes.
And it's funny because some people, the book's 500 pages plus long.
Mm-hmm.
So people, you kind of think, oh, they're going to need like 2 months to read it. And the people that come back
Mm-hmm.
after like 3 days and have finished the entire thing, and you're like blown away
Yeah.
by it. Like the so complete.
Right.
Yeah. People are just so different, aren't they? Some people will take ages to read a book
Yeah.
or will never finish it at all. And some
Mm-hmm.
people will read it in like a few days. And it
Few
just,
days. Yeah. It's for people who would read your book in like who would devour. Like they're assume that there are people out there who've been craving your book for a long time.
mm,
And I give them what they want and what they need. They've been looking for you for a long time. And they're
yeah.
so grateful that you are giving them a free copy of your book. And, ask for a review when it's time.
That's a great way to look at it because I think sometimes we kind of feel awkward about it. We're sort of like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel awkward asking someone to read my book and leave a review. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like they're going out of their way to do it and it's all uncomfortable. But yeah, as you
Mm-hmm.
say, they're getting a free copy of a book that they
Yeah.
otherwise have to pay for. So yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
nice little privilege to be able to get that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
I wanted to ask you as well, Renee, about a lot of people when they start doing this kind of thing on Amazon, it just doesn't work. So they feel when they start trying to promote a book and that sort of thing. What can people do to avoid that failure? What can they do to optimize for success? Obviously, you've already talked about how to optimize the listing, but in terms of their
Mm-hmm.
overall approach and their mindset towards
Mm.
Amazon and promoting books online, how can they optimize for success long term?
Right. So, yeah, we've talked a lot about the things that you need to do to optimize for success, like sending out tons of copies beforehand, doing the market research, deep market research beforehand, having a really good Amazon listing, and getting that marketing momentum with ads, with podcast guesting, with whatever traffic source that you're doing. And there's a lot of parts, moving parts to, and it's a project. It truly is like a project, just like any launch of like a product or a course that you might have. There's a
Mm,
lot of steps and pieces involved, right? And so when I first was launching and learning how to publish books, I mean, the first 4 that I did, I thought that I knew what I was doing. I was like, oh, I just need this course. I could just figure it out by myself. And that also resulted in failure. It was like total flops. They didn't go anywhere. I now use them as stories for mistakes that I learned. But it was after 4 different times that I was able to use all those learnings to then succeed and
mm,
sell this 10,283 copies in a year. But if there's a lot of people out there, especially business owners, who just have that one book inside of them that they've been working on, they've been thinking about for a really long time, and they have one shot. They don't got 5 shots. They got one shot. And so they're thinking, oh, maybe I'll just like slap it up on Amazon and hope for the best.
mm,
Whereas there's a lot of moving parts. No, I don't recommend that. I do recommend working with an experienced book launch coach who's going to take you by the hand, help you navigate the potential pitfalls. If you are struggling with one thing, you can work through it together. If you're not understanding one thing, you can have someone to lean on to help you move through those roadblocks.
yeah,
So I do recommend, if you have that one book, the seminal book for your business, work with a book launch coach to get success the first time around.
yeah. And this is a service you offer, yeah?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I help business owners who are launching like a coaching business or a high ticket coaching business who have that one book
Mm,
to get it right the first time and to have a really successful, massive, organized, strategic launch the first time
yeah.
to market their coaching business effectively.
Okay. Where is the best place for people who might be interested in that to connect with you? Is it through Substack or your website?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So, first of all, David, thank you very much for having me on your podcast today. And I'm
Yeah.
super grateful to be able to share what I've learned about book launches and about books, selling books successfully on Amazon. So, to all the listeners out there, if you're listening to this thinking, wow, there's like so many nuances to book launches and to book marketing, but you're finally understanding how to leverage the Amazon algorithm and know how to get a ton of reviews, how to sell a ton of books and grow your business, then I would love for you to think about how you can prepare for your own slam dunk book launch and see if we could be a good fit to work together.
Mm,
And my now client, Ken, he booked this strategy call with me because he was tired of failing over and over again on Amazon. And since he is now launching a high ticket coaching business with launching his book, he knew that he wanted to get it right first time.
mhm,
So he knew that he needed an organized, strategic launch with an experienced book launch coach, and that would help him achieve his goals. So he decided that leveraging the Amazon algorithm and the podcast guesting would help him drive the book sales and the exposure he needed to grow his business, and that working together would help him achieve that. And just last week, this is a source of pride for myself, but mostly for Ken, is that he was able to book 5 sales calls from his podcast interviews for his coaching business before selling a single book. So he's on track to guest on 30 podcasts by his launch date and become a #1 Amazon bestseller.
Nice.
And he feels super calm, assured, and confident in his launch for his book and his business. So we put together a strategic book launch for him. He's super calm, he's super confident, and he's going to be able to sell tons of books, sell tons of spots in his coaching business, and transform that many more lives. So it's truly life-changing work. And if you don't invest in a proper book launch, not that many people are going to be transformed by the work that you do. So invest in yourself so that you can invest in other people. So if you'd like to explore what steps that you need to take right now to have that slam dunk book launch, just like my clients, Ken and others, I'll invite you to book a no pressure 30-minute strategy session with me, where you'll walk away with 3 actionable steps that you can begin implementing right now in your book launch prep for that slam dunk book launch that you've been dreaming about. So just head on over to the link in the show notes, or head on over to smokin-hot.co for Smokin' Hot Book Funnels to book your free strategy session. That's SMOKIN-HOT.co to book your free strategy session, or go to the link in the show notes. So again, my name is Renee. Thank you so much for having me on the show, David. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. And I'm going to ask you one more question, Renee, before you go. And that was incredible. And by the way, anybody who's listening, this wasn't like kind of a sort of setup thing. I just let Renee do that and kind of give the opportunity. And you should definitely jump on that. And if you're listening to this today, if you're interested in this kind of thing, and you would like some help, some coaching with your book publishing process and your funnel and everything, definitely reach out to her after this. I will put the link in the show notes, as you said, so people can go directly from there. I want to ask you, Renee, one final question. If you could give people one nugget of advice, if they want to write online, they want to make money from their words or from their books or whatever else, what is the one piece of advice they should take away from this conversation today about that?
Advice that I would give is to learn marketing and sales. And maybe the one piece of advice is to change your mindset and your beliefs about marketing and sales. I also came from a background of thinking that marketing and sales was sleazy, that I was taking money from people, that I wasn't helping them, that it was awkward to ask for things. Who am I to ask? But truly, when you are just asking those questions about yourself, you're just thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about all the people that you are benefiting from, who are benefiting from reading your words and getting helped by the marketing and promotion, the sales that you are doing. So change your beliefs about marketing and sales. Marketing is a beautiful thing that helps you stay organized and energy efficient as you're getting your work out into the world. And sales is the beautiful art of persuasion, where you can help someone remove their own blocks out of their own way so that they can feel like they can be transformed by their work and transform their own lives. Yep. So learn marketing and sales, change your beliefs about it. You'll be successful.
Perfect. A great way to end. Renee, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate this. It was so good to talk to you. I'm super duper interested in all this kind of stuff, and it's just so good to talk to someone who knows exactly what they're talking about. So yeah, I just wish you ongoing success with your book and with your
likewise
your coaching, your whole process and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.